Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber, to better understand their buyers, what motivates them, and what they hate that vendors do. It's time to unmute your mic. Are you ready? All right, welcome to another episode of Audience First. I have a very special guest in the house here in New York with me today. I have the one and only Rocky Cole, who has the coolest name, in my opinion. Rocky, welcome.
Thank you.
The show.
Thanks for having me on this very frigid day.
Yes, very frigid day, but we are warm and cozy with all the lights and all the velvet couches. Rocky, let's get into it. Tell me who you are, what do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
My name is Rocky Cole. I'm one of the founders of a mobile security company called iVerify. I started my career on the offensive side of things at the National Security Agency. I was at Google for about a decade as a senior product manager. We did everything from incubating, early stage technologies to protect the internet from, of course, cyber attacks, but also misinformation, extremism, hate, things that aren't relevant at all today.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then one of the things I followed when I was at Google was the rise of commercial spyware vendors.
Mm-hmm.
NSO Group in Israel, the Intellexa Alliance in Europe. And it became apparent to me that for whatever it costs to buy a license for Pegasus today, you could pop an iPhone with the same or frankly more sophistication than I could when I was in government. Mm-hmm. And that no one in the security industry was prepared to tackle that. And it was an enormous challenge for the security world, but also a greenfield opportunity for someone to roll up their sleeves. And so that's who I am, and that's how we got started.
What motivates you to stick around in this industry?
That's a good question. I think the fact that it's a real problem, there are a lot of startups, certainly in the security space too, that I think they're kind of a hammer looking for a nail, mm-hmm. so to speak. And we're not that. We offer a solution that it solves two problems really, but in both cases, they're just badly needed. And mm-hmm. you go and you have a conversation with a customer, and you see the delight and the joy that like, oh my God, I can actually tackle this. And that's what makes it worth it, is being able to help people and seeing that you're like actually, in some cases, in some specific cases, we have even had the privilege of saving people's lives. Mm-hmm. And you get out of bed in the morning and you don't have to look yourself in the mirror and say like, am I making the world a better place? Because you know you are.
Right. Now, it's funny how we met. It was actually at dinner the other night, and thanks to Leo Cruz, who invited me to that, and we kind of had some good steak and seafood. And when in talking to Monica and some of the other folks who were at the table from iVerify, they were telling me, mobile security is lagging against other kind of use cases and domains in the space. Is that safe to say, and why is that the case?
I think it is. I heard an investor the other day at some cyber conference. It might have been whatever CrowdStrike's Falcon, I think is what it's called, said that mobile is an ignored reality. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. The first is it's true that Apple and to some degree Google built products that were good. I mean, an iPhone is largely free of the mass attacks that you saw on early Microsoft desktop machines. The strong sandboxing, the rigorous App Store reviews have all contributed to an environment where like the bar is pretty high to pop an iPhone. And I think over the last 10 years, you've seen what's changed is you've seen more and more work done on phones in the workplace. They're connected to loads of corporate systems. Frankly, the juiciest conversations in an organization, whether that be a political organization or a company, probably happen on a phone. But people have gotten used to those phones being somehow different than desktop, and you don't have to take any security precautions on them. And this norm has developed that specifically if it's a BYOD phone, you don't touch it from a security perspective, and you have free reign to do whatever you want. But even corp phones, I think, are the handling of security on corp phones is significantly behind where it needs to be, specifically because to the degree anyone are taking any security precautions on them at all, they're really using antivirus.
Right.
You know, the security APIs that the big phone makers provide really let you pull down a list of apps from the phone and settings.
Yeah.
You can bump those up against threat intelligence data sets and say, is there something good or bad on the phone? It's not really the types of threats that we're seeing against phones. You know, it looks, what you're seeing on iPhone in particular is fileless attacks against core parts of the iOS operating system itself. And what you really need is to just treat that phone like a computer. And I think that's where the market is pretty rapidly catching up there.
I want to drill down really deep in what this really means for the everyday user.
Mm-hmm.
What are the implications? What happens? Like, what do we do about it? I know that's a pretty loaded question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it sounds glib, but the right answer is just to think of your phone as a computer, right? I mean, a pretty large and substantial, and I would argue successful, body of standards and best practices exists to protect traditional endpoints, like cloud edges, like desktop machines. I think we just need to apply those same standards to phones. And so where we come into that is we have really the closest thing on the market to a true EDR service for phones that gets telemetry really deep from the kernel. We're not inside the kernel because Apple and Google won't let us be. And as we saw last year with a certain large cyber vendor pushing a faulty driver update, that perhaps that's not a good idea. But the idea is you get that really deep telemetry from the phone, you put it in the cloud, and then you run sure signatures, but also heuristics and machine learning on it. And you find things that are just probabilistically anomalous, not just going out and looking for true positives. So I think that's really the answer, is just to take the same standards that you see for traditional endpoints and just apply those to phones. I think that's the answer.
Now, I don't want to sound redundant, but I do want to double click into what were some of the barriers preventing individuals and businesses from detecting advanced threats on their phone irregardless of iVerify.
Yeah, well, the barrier really is that the same architectures that make phones secure from mass attacks also do make it more difficult for the defenders to look into the operating system and make sure it's secure, right? And to be clear, I don't want to pick on any particular phone manufacturer. Like, again, they make really good and really secure products. But when you make it almost impossible to get telemetry from the kernel, to look into what sorts of processes and what sorts of programs are running on a phone, kind of cripples your ability to find malware as well, right? And so that's what we've been able to do, is we've been able to find ways to extract the sorts of telemetry from the phones that you need in order to look for things beyond lists of malicious applications.
So you recently published a study. You found some interesting findings, detecting 11 new Pegasus infections in December alone.
Yeah.
So tell me, what stood out most to you with regards to those findings?
Well, let me back up and tell sort of the full story.
Yes,
so in May of last year, you might say, democratized mobile threat hunting. Before we did this, the only way to really know if your phone had spyware on it was to use one of the free tools available from the NGO community, like the Mobile Verification Toolkit published by Amnesty International, I think. Those tools are difficult. They're great tools, and it's even better that they're free, but they do require a little bit of technical expertise to use. You have to have physical access to the phone. It takes a long time to pull down the data. And then even if you succeed at all of that, kind of good luck making sense of it if you don't have deep knowledge of phone internals.
Right.
So we put an app in the App Store for $1 that let people check for a range of commercial spyware, including Pegasus, Predator, Quadreams, I think Graphite, the latest Paragon product is in there, and a few others. And about 3,000 people in May of last year took us up on the offer to scan their phones. And we found, as you say, or well, I think you didn't say this, but we found 7 Pegasus infections at the time. That is about a 2.5 per 1,000 phone incident rate. Mm-hmm. Now, that initial sample was really skewed, right? It's going to be skewed towards people who are early adopters of security or tech products, maybe thought their phone was acting funny, maybe thought they were being targeted for political reasons or something. So a really, really biased sample, right? We published the results of that study in December of last year, and it got a really decent amount of press coverage. Like, I think it ran on the front page of Wired for like a week. And about 20,000 people, additional people, scanned their phones, and we found 11 more Pegasus infections. And when you do the math on the total number of infections, that makes our global incidence rate about 1 per 1,000. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be certainly not representative of the general population. It's certainly still a biased sample, but it's closer to the true incidence rate in the general population. And it gives me a little bit more confidence that I can now draw some conclusions from that data. And so one of the conclusions that I'm willing to draw now is only in about half of the cases did anyone receive any sort of threat notification from anyone, including Apple. Mm-hmm. So in about half the cases, the only reason they knew is because we told them. The second conclusion is that at least in the more general population scans, meaning the scans that happened after December, 100% of the detections were in the business community.
Wow.
There's this narrative that Pegasus only attacks terrorists and journalists and activists.
Yeah.
And I think that's a legacy of the fact that the people who were actually looking at their phones were just in that community, right? Mm-hmm. They were going to Amnesty International or the Citizen Lab at Toronto, who are both great researchers. They do really fantastic work. But there was a bias in the sample. So by democratizing this capability, by having it go mainstream, you get a more representative sample. And lo and behold, most of the detections are actually in the business world. Wow. So that was one of the really interesting findings to me. And I will conclude with, it was quite geographically dispersed as well. Wow. We didn't see any Pegasus infections in the United States, but we saw them almost everywhere else. Eastern Europe, Western Europe, the Middle East, certainly.
Well, given that these mobile compromises are surprisingly largely affecting the businesses,
mm-hmm.
Finance, real estate, logistics, I mean, what does this mean, and what do these new detections tell us about the shifting threat landscape?
I think it just means that phones are today where desktop was 10 or 15 years ago. Yeah. Your laptop was this thick. Mm-hmm. It made funny sounds when it connected to the internet,
Oh, the days.
And everyone's laptop was a part of a botnet.
Yeah.
And it was because the defense model was broken. By the time you ran a honeypot, caught some malware, reverse engineered it, turned it into signatures, and pushed those out to your antivirus agents,
right.
The attackers had just moved on, right? It was too slow. That's kind of where phones are today in that the desktop world, if you go out and talk to security professionals, no one's going to, put a big banner up and declare victory on desktop malware. Mm-hmm. But they do have the sense that, like, I know what to do. Like, this is kind of under control.
Okay.
And I think phones are at that inflection point where the barriers to entering the market to exploit a phone are falling pretty quickly. Venture capital money has flooded into the offensive side. With venture capital money comes the expectation of hockey stick growth and scale.
Yes.
So you see market competition, not just to lower the price, but also to expand in new markets, right? So the security industry is going to have to keep up. We're going to have to we're going to have to start thinking of phones as computers, and we're going to have to start treating them the same way that we do our desktop machines.
Well, so how do you see mobile security factoring into corporate security strategies in the next few years?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's kind of two angles to this. One is for phones that are, I have a customer who has a group in their Azure Active Directory that they call highly hacked people. And these are people that the APT groups and the criminal groups really tend to target. They're things like system administrators, certainly VIPs, people traveling abroad, people in R&D, or maybe people engaging in really high stakes commercial negotiations. I think for those people, you really need to be running like a really, really good EDR service on the phone, something that can get telemetry from the kernel, and really detect zero-day activity. For everyone else, I would say what you tend to see is a lot of BYOD phones in the workplace. And as I mentioned, kind of when we kicked off the chat, like those have been treated to some degree as sacrosanct. Like your phone, it is different than your desktop in that your phone certainly has all your most intimate thoughts and information on it. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I would probably not want to just turn my phone over to someone to rifle through, right? And so people have gotten used to working on their personal phones without the security teams being able to touch those. The traditional solution for mobile security has been MDM. MDM is software built on top of security APIs. Those security APIs, as we've established here, are limited in what they can do. But the other downside of MDM is that it's got like a creep factor. Like it skeeves people out. And what's behind that really is the fact that that the MDM also gives you the ability to change settings on the phone, in particular to wipe things. And if my phone has pictures of perhaps my long dead cat or dog, maybe pictures of my grandma, like over my dead body, is someone going to wipe that because there was a security incident?
Right.
So I think the second leg of tackling phones in a corporate environment means tackling the BYOD problem. And again, that's where we come in, and we've built a product that is specifically designed for BYOD. It does most of the thing. It certainly offers good security from malware and smishing, but it also offers the ability to do some MDM functions without the ability to wipe a phone and all the things that creep people out.
What do you think are some of the biggest, or just one of the biggest misconceptions that businesses have with regards to mobile security?
It's a good question. I would say the biggest misconception is the threat model. People think the threats aren't widespread. We have proven that that's not the case. I mean, one infection per 1,000 phones, just talking about Pegasus, just true positives, not other types of malware, not other types of compromise, just Pegasus. Give that a 95% haircut to be conservative. You get an incident rate that's going to be on par with desktop malware there, right? So that's the biggest misconception, is just that like I don't have to worry about it. The people are just dead wrong about that, and I'm gonna say it. They need to get their head out of the sand. The other misperception though is that there's like nothing you can do about BYOD. I think we're showing that you can, and I think it starts with being really user friendly. Like you could probably build an entire security company just around good UX.
Yes.
Right. And so do that. Be user friendly. Be transparent. Put privacy first in your mission ethos. And then, you can tackle the problem.
Well, you basically answered the next question I was going to ask, which is like if you could change one thing about the way mobile security is handled today in businesses, whether it's technology, processes, people, or user behavior, what would it be? Anything else you want to add to that one?
Well, I mean, I think the security solutions should do something as a starting point. Like they should detect threats and stop threats if possible, and then I think, they should be user friendly. Like phones are different than desktop in the sense that people have gotten used to good user experiences. It's your personal life and your professional life are all intermingled. And you just have to be sensitive to those differences. And so that's, I would say, sure, treat phones like computers, but acknowledge that there are some fundamental differences.
What's one question that nobody is asking about mobile security that they should be asking?
Ooh, okay. That's a good question. That no one is asking me.
Yes. And they should be asking.
Well, no one really asked me what I think the future of mobile compromise looks like. People are really focused on threats of 5 or 6 years ago, but no one really asked me about the future. I am wondering if we might see more baseband exploitation in the future. More things like stingrays. I don't mean to say stingrays because I think those are a little foil hat and they're not as common as people think, but we are seeing evidence that baseband exploitation is on the rise. And I think the security community, frankly, us included, are a little bit behind the 8 ball on that one. I think we need to get out in front of it. But yeah, no one asked me what's happening in the future. They're really worried about like Pegasus today. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we're gonna shift the conversation a little bit to the segment called the hot seat. This is a new little experiment I'm doing with some of our guests here, and it's a quick fire kind of challenge. The first thing you think about, top of mind when I ask the question, shoot.
Okay.
Ready?
Let's do it.
All right. What's your product's dirty little secret? Something buyers never ask, but you know.
Dirty little secret. That our Android product is maybe a few months behind our iOS product.
Okay. Tell us about a challenge that shaped how your company does business today.
We went out to an initial round of customers and tried to sell our product, and they didn't believe that we could detect the things we could detect. So we had to start doing more robust demos to sort of like show them that we can.
What's one lesson you learned the hard way that others could learn from?
Marketing matters. Like what you call your product, what you name your product, how you talk about your product. Like those things matter as much, if not more, than what the products actually do.
That segment is the show. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm joking there. All right. What makes you different from the competition?
Our product detects threats on phones.
Okay. Tell us about your most successful customer story.
Oh boy. Okay. I have to be careful here because I have to think about which customers allow us to sort of speak publicly. Well, okay. Here's one. Last fall, we were monitoring the phones on the Harris Walls campaign, and pro bono as part of a partnership with the Defending Digital Campaigns nonprofit organization, and the story broke in the news that Salt Typhoon had compromised a huge chunk of the United States telecom infrastructure. And right around the same time as that story was breaking, we noticed in our own telemetry, we had just launched really our first set of machine learning models that were unsupervised. So they were telling us the weird stuff to look at, right? Rather than being training it on, a true positive, false positive data set. And that model flagged a couple devices at the campaign as being highly anomalous, like 10x weirder than anything else we were looking at the time. And we dug into it, and the types of telemetry that were behaving anomalous were associated with other types of APT group activity that we were aware of. And the timelines happened to line up exactly with when the FBI said Salt Typhoon was really active on the AT&T and Verizon networks. And the phones belonged to individuals that the FBI had confirmed had been surveilled via Salt Typhoon.
Whoa.
That, and we're not quite ready to tell the rest of the story yet, but we then went in our data and looked for very similar activity across a whole bunch of other customers, and we found some other cases where we think the same threat actor was active on other large U.S. institutions. So we're going to be telling that story soon, but it'll be a good one.
Wow. Yeah. Well, then when that's ready, let me know. We can always link that back here. But
yeah, that'll be a good one.
All right. What's the biggest myth about your product category?
The biggest myth about my product category? That MDM does anything useful from a security perspective. It's a tool to manage settings on the phone. It's not a security tool, and people confuse those all the time.
Describe your product in 3 words. It could be 4. I'll let you cheat.
Secure, private, transparent.
Okay. Biggest misconception about your company?
That we do identity verification. Our name is terrible.
Really?
We really need to rebrand the company.
If your product was a superhero, who would it be?
A superhero. Captain Planet.
Well, this is the question. What's the future of mobile security?
iVerify.
Yeah, iVerify. All right, there you have it, folks. That's the show. But I do want to drill down actually into some of the things that you mentioned before we hit the big red button to record. You mentioned you like to kind of drill down into the minds of people. Tell me more about that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think, selling a security product is largely about, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 things that goes into it. One is it's just so much easier if your product is actually helpful.
Yes.
If you're actually solving a problem versus being, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for saying this, but being the latest AI widget for something, right?
Right.
But putting that aside, even if you have a helpful product, there's a lot of trust that goes into it. Or maybe even trust but verify, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the psychology comes in, like being able to earn someone's trust. And it can be as simple as getting to know them, getting to know their family, or figuring out what makes them tick, right? And so we spend a lot of time thinking about our customers and thinking about how to talk to them, what are the right what are the right ways to talk about our product? What's the right sequence in which to introduce things? It all matters a lot from a sales perspective, but it ultimately all comes back to earning people's trust and convincing them that like you can do the thing you say you can do and that you'll be a good partner to them, like in the long term.
Can you take me through some, tactical ways you did that successfully and quickly?
Well, tactically speaking, I think it comes down to being as transparent as you can and then making sure that you are really clearly communicating your product. So tactically speaking, when we first got started, we would start a sales conversation and, at first I think my co-founder didn't do, this is a mistake I made, but I had the impression that sales is sales and that you have to sort of convince people, that you have, it's like 1,000 proofs sort of. And as it turns out, like a better thing to do is just to sort of show up in the conversation and just say like, well, so I run a mobile security company. You're here to presumably talk about mobile security. Like what's on your mind? Where are you in your mobile security journey? Like what pain points do you have? And just hear them, just listen to what is on their mind, and it's not really that different than just like helping people.
Yeah.
Like if a friend comes to you and is like, I need help with this, but you're like, okay, well, how can I help? Like what's going on? Right. Approach it like that. Just approach it from the perspective of like, how can you be helpful? And then lay out the areas where maybe you can or can't do something for them. Mm-hmm. And if you can, great. And if not, you just say, cool, well, let me know when you have one of these problems because they will eventually.
Yeah.
Right. And if you avoid that attempt to persuade, the minute you try to persuade someone, people clam up. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think there's no amount of pushing in the space is going to make things go faster.
100%.
It's just, you meet people where they are.
Yeah. And then you mentioned also that you had, early on gone through a focus group program. Yeah. Take me through what happened in that moment, before that moment in time that you decided we need to do a focus group.
Yeah. Well, so as we've chatted about a bit, there are a lot of misperceptions in the mobile space. Mm-hmm. The biggest one being that there's not a threat here.
Yeah.
And the data just say otherwise. And we were just like, where's the disconnect here? Mm-hmm. Like, so we did a focus group where we pulled together, let's call them mobile security skeptics. I call them haters. They weren't really haters, as it turned out. But we put them in a room with, iVerify wasn't there. It was being run by a trusted confidant, let's say, who's a really good member of the security community and has a lot of respect. And this person just put forth a few data points and was like, so what's your reaction to this? Mm-hmm. And then really pushed them like, well, you said this isn't a priority for you, but the data say it should be. Like, mm-hmm. So what gives? And the thing that came out wasn't that they didn't really think it was a threat. Like everyone bought the data was real.
Yeah.
It was more just like they were busy, and the things that were top of mind for them were like I have too many alerts in my SOC and like I need to reduce the number of alerts because I'm just chasing ghosts, or my team is burned out and I'm just like, I just can't add more endpoints on my plate right now. And it was really like the human side of the story. And it wasn't at all that it actually wasn't that they really doubted the threat, which was my hypothesis was that like they were in denial about the threat. It turns out that wasn't the case. It turns out they mostly were just like, there were just a lot of operational things that were getting in the way.
How did you take that data and operationalize it yourself?
Well, our product actually saves people time.
Yeah.
Because MDMs are hard to use.
Yeah.
And you can, it's not just, deploying an MDM, but then sitting on top of it and managing it, right? Our product is an alternative to an MDM, and it like net saves people time. So we started talking about that more, and we started focusing on the operational value as much as the security value, and like that had a bit more of an impact on that community. Although I will say, as I said earlier, to some degree, you just have to meet people where they are.
How long did it take you to see an impact on your business after you implemented some of the insights that you learned from the focus group?
You can see a change pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
The trick is to being instrumented to capture it.
Well, take me through specific time frames. Is it days or months?
Oh, it probably took about a quarter.
A quarter.
Because we had to update sort of our scripts, and we had to test out a few different, you have to have enough sales conversations to gauge whether it's working or not, right? And then with some confidence, because there's a temptation to have to change your script, have one conversation, and then go back and say, oh, that really worked. It was a totally different vibe. And that was just lucky,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a decent enough sample size to draw some generalizable conclusions from it.
How do you kind of keep up with buyer evidence and validation and feedback? Is this something that you do on the regular?
I will say that's really hard. I wish we were better at it than we are. I think it's a full-time job almost. I think you need a biz ops person or a sales ops person to just sort of sit on your CRM, to sit on your customer feedback.
Yeah.
We don't do this, but we should transcribe sales conversations and pull out insights from it. It could be a data scientist's full-time job, I think, to do that. We don't do a very good job of it. We're still a little bit, you might say, founder driven, where it's largely based on the humans are the processors and filters of the information.
Yeah.
But it could absolutely be a full-time job, I think, in a sales org.
Apart from time and focusing on that founder-led approach, what's the barrier from starting today with regards to talking to buyers, not customers, but buyers, to get that feedback and validation?
What's the barrier to it?
on your end. Starting tomorrow.
Well, you said besides from time, but
besides time and a full-time role.
I get, time is the big one. But if it's the difference between closing a deal, versus going to a buyer and being so what do you like and hate about my product? I'm going to close a deal. But I think there's the question of you have a lot of qualitative data. Qualitative research, I always thought, was way harder than quantitative research. Maybe it's a little easier with LLMs now that can summarize things for you, but you get data in a lot of different places. You get it in customer conversations, you get it in help desk tickets, you get it in emails. There's just a whole bunch of places where the data is. So how do you centralize it all in one place and then make sense of it? That would be a barrier, I think, if we were doing that.
Okay. Now, I want to know if you could give advice for a skeptical CEO who doesn't want to do a focus group and just wants to go based off of their assumptions. What would you say to them?
Where are you in your journey as a company? Are you a seed round company where you are just realizing a vision?
Yeah.
Or are you a Series C level company where you have 100 or 200 large enterprise customers? If you're in the beginning of that, I think, great, trust your gut. That's kind of what founders do to some degree. If you're a Series C company, I would suggest the board might ask some questions about what that CEO is doing.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Amazing. All right, well, we're headed towards the end of the session. Is there anything else you want to impart on the audience today?
Mobile security is hard, but it's doable.
Yeah. Well, Rocky, you're always welcome back to the show.
Thanks. I'd love to be back.
Amazing.
This couch is very comfortable.
It is very comfortable. It's just a great.
And the lights are warm and soothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have Leo in the studio too next time.
I'd love to have Leo.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. This has been another episode of Audience First. We are out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.